All right, guys, I'm gonna start us off here. I'll keep on letting people in through the waiting room as they come, but don't want to go, don't want to start too late here. But just want to give you a quick overview of kind of how we will go about this little webinar. There's definitely going to be time for questions at the end, so we'll open up for Q&A at the end of this, most certainly. At any point, you can type into the chat as well if there's something that like pops up right in your head right away. Feel free to type into the chat if you have any questions to try and get that answered. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to overview the fundamentals of college recruiting. And so that is just like the meat and potatoes of what we want our guys to know. Obviously there are many layers. There's no two same recruiting processes. It's individuals, right? These are relationships. That's what a recruiting process is. It's a college coach, an athlete, and an athlete's family. So it's always going to be different. But there are a lot of kind of pillars that we can work with that gives a really good foundation for our guys to be able to understand what it is that they want to try and accomplish. So what we'll do is I'll run through a couple different points that we take and we use in the full 4-week course version of this webinar that we do. We'll run through those. I'm going to give as much information as I possibly can so that guys at minimum walk away with this feeling like they have a much better understanding of what this recruiting process looks like, as well as having some handy resources that are completely free, completely available to mom, dad, and obviously our athletes as well to utilize. That being email templates, so things that you can take right away, swipe, and just add your name in and add your little touches to. Some resources for how to find these college programs, how to find college coaches' contact information, and then just kind of an overview of what you want to include in that email and kind of how to make a highlight video and or record a full film match to include in that email. All right, so the first thing, let me hop over to our notes section here, is going to be just starting with what we call in the course introspection. And that's just kind of thinking about what it is that you as an athlete want, right? You as an athlete and you as a student. So you as a person and what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish with your life, where you want to go. You may not have every answer, but you probably have a pretty good idea of some things that you are looking for out of your college experience, right? So if you're on this call, you're probably interested in volleyball in some degree, right? So that may be, I want to try and play at the highest possible level I can, or I just know that I want volleyball to be a part of my life and I want to, academics is my number one, but I still want to have volleyball there, right? So it could go as low down to club volleyball in college. So we'll start talking about those differences so that you can kind of have those thoughts in your head. So if you think about it like a pyramid, at the top of that pyramid, you're going to have Division I men's volleyball programs. It's a very, very small select amount. I believe only about 40-ish programs across the country in the Division I arena. So definitely a small number. It's less than 1% of high school boys volleyball players will play Division I volleyball. And I don't say that statistic to scare any guys. Obviously, we've had a number of guys go off and play Division I. I say that stat, that less than 1%, because if that's what you want to do, that's a really cool goal, right? And you're trying to join rare company. So that's a very cool goal to have. And it shouldn't be a discouraging thing. It should be something that hopefully is pretty inspiring. Next level down is going to be Division II. Division II, there's a little bit more programs, but they still compete with Division I. So Division I and II, there's no difference in their national championship. For a long time, UC San Diego was Division II. They were competing against all of Division I's at a very high level. They just now recently, in the past 2 years, have transitioned to fully Division I. But that's just one example of a program. And so Division I, II compete the same place. There's a little bit different rules in terms of how Division II coaches can recruit. They have a much broader ability to recruit and speak to athletes at tournaments. Division I coaches have to follow a number of different guidelines on when and how they can talk. Not really anything that you guys as athletes or parents need to worry about. The coaches are the ones that have to abide by those rules. And if you're outside of the contact period, Coach can say, hey, but yeah, we'll probably have to end the conversation pretty quickly at a tournament if you were to go up and say hey to a coach. Division III is the biggest base, along with the NAIA programs of schools. There's a huge growth at the Division III level for men's college volleyball. We've been adding multiple programs each and every year at the Division III level. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And, there's going to be a lot of schools that you've probably never heard of. And then there's a lot of really good high academic schools, right? You've got the NYUs, you've got, I'm blanking on a number of them, Vassar College, a lot of higher liberal arts, MIT, different programs that have really high academic standards, and also host a Division III men's volleyball program. So those are some very cool opportunities in the Division III level, that volleyball can be used as a tool to help get athletes into school. The difference between Division III and Division II and I is that there's no athletic aid at Division III level, right? There's no athletic scholarships. You can get academic scholarships. The big thing that you get for Division III programs that a lot of guys utilize is you get what's basically called a chip. So coaches may not be able to give you money, but if the coach at MIT puts a chip on your application, it basically moves your application into a separate pile for athletes, right? And so you get a little bit of a nudge in that sense, where your application will get some priority in the admissions process, as long as you obviously still meet all the standards of that school. It's just helping to separate you out, right? You get a letter of recommendation from that coach, is essentially what's happening. And so that's helpful to get your name out of the general student population application pool and into a more selective pool that is usually going to be prioritized in some degree at these schools. And then you got NAIA. NAIA programs can offer money. They're usually going to be kind of a mixture of, you can have some like really high level NAIA programs, but they're going to be, playing by a different set of rules. So, you could have a 29-year-old on your NAIA program that played professional volleyball in Brazil and has come to the United States trying to get his degree. And then you can have an 18-year-old that just played club volleyball last year. So just a different set of rules that NAIA plays by, but still some really high level volleyball that's being played, and some good opportunities as well in NAIA programs, specifically in California. There's a number of NAIA programs within the state of California that are out there, from Vanguard, Masters University, a couple other down in Southern California that compete. Menlo College, obviously in Northern California as well, who is actually going to be transitioning to Division II in the coming years here. So just those are going to be your kind of degrees of the collegiate athletics, right? Where you actually have a full-time coach, some kind of a budget where the athletic department is supporting the program, usually going to have some kind of athletic training, maybe a strength conditioning. If you're at the Division III level, some of that's where that, the support level gets different there, right? Division I and II are usually pretty well supported. Division I obviously being the most supported. You're going to have those secondary and tertiary benefits, right? Like Stanford, we've got a sports psychologist, sport medicine. Someone sprains their ankle. We had a player sprain his ankle, and literally we wheeled him out the door right across to get him an X-ray within 20 minutes of him, getting injured. You've got ice baths and needling and all the different things that kind of come along with being a high level athlete is going to be at majority of Division I schools. And then as you kind of go down the tiers or down the divisions, it gets a little bit less on that support side in terms of how the programs are supported. And then at the base level, where the majority of our guys for Beta Bay go off and play, is going to be collegiate club volleyball, which is an awesome experience. My brother played collegiate club volleyball at Cal Poly. Some really good volleyball is played at the collegiate club level. It is a lot like travel club volleyball that you guys are playing right now, except instead of playing for Beta Bay, you're playing for UC Santa Barbara, or you're playing for whatever school that you go to. There's a number of schools that have really high level programs together and compete kind of like a mixture of your high school program and your club program. So it's high school in the sense that you're going to play other colleges like within your area, You'll go and, like Cal Poly would come up and play Santa Clara University. Santa Clara would go to UC Davis, right? And you play this league schedule where you kind of do a little bit of a round robin, a home and away. But then you also have larger multi-day tournaments, kind of like what we're heading to this weekend with Chicago, just for collegiate club, it's in Las Vegas or it's in Phoenix, Arizona, right? And so they have the same type of setup, very similar to what you're used to with the big convention center multi-day events. You're just representing your college. They have a national championship at the end of the season. Last year, it was in Phoenix, Arizona. They actually played their national championship match in the ballpark where the Arizona Diamondbacks played. We actually had 3 Beta Bay guys win that national championship with UC Santa Barbara. And it's a very, very cool experience. A lot of fun. You obviously are going to have it's going to be less rigorous than playing Division I, right? Division I, we're practicing 5 days a week. When we get into season, we're practicing 5 days a week plus 2 matches. You've got weight room, you've got all the other things that go along. It's very much a large commitment to play Division I volleyball. Whereas collegiate club, you're making a commitment, but at the same time, you're practicing 1 to 2 days a week, depending on the program. And there's lots of time for your social life. There's lots of time for school, all the other parts of being a collegiate, having a collegiate experience going to be involved there. Right. And so there's just varying degrees of what you're kind of looking for and what you get out of each division. And so that takes me kind of to the next piece, right? Coming back to that idea of just introspection, of thinking about what it is that you want. I'm going to pull just a little bit from a module inside our actual 4-week course here. But some of the things that a lot of guys will think about when you're thinking about college is going to be, number one, location, right? So where do you want to be? We have a ton of guys that say, like, I want to stay in California. That's it. That's all I want to do. That's great. That's good that you know that, but just know that you've now cut off 90% of all other college volleyball programs, right? Outside of that state line. And so just knowing what it is that you want, you're going to obviously remove some pieces, or maybe, oh, okay, now actually thinking about that, I could be open to Arizona, or I could be open to this state or that state, and just trying to get a good picture of what it is that you really want to get from that. Then you go to the idea of what it is that you want to do, right? What do you want to study? Do these schools tick that box as well, right? You start to kind of compile this list of, like, do I want to go to a football school? Do I want to go to a big school with where there's a ton of people? Do I want to go to a smaller school where the class sizes are going to be more manageable? Do I want, what's the girl to guy ratio? Who knows? Like, there's so many different things that we've heard throughout college recruitment processes where guys have, the idea in their head of what they want. And that's great. But the main goal is you want to kind of come up with that list, right? And that's something that you can certainly do. And we think about it in sense, I'm going to share the screen here, of just like thinking like a Venn diagram, right? So this is actually just pulling from inside of our course here. You've got the idea of, you've got your athletic excellence, right? You're thinking about the volleyball program. You got your social life. What does it look like on campus? Is it a big football school? Is it a Greek life school? Is it something that you feel like you can vibe with? And then you got your academic strength, right? What is the strength of the school? Is your degree going to be worth something when you graduate? Does it have the major that you're looking for, right? So you're pulling all of these aspects together and you're trying to come up with a list. Okay, that's kind of the next step, right? So that's the next piece for you guys, is like, how do I make this list? Where do I find the schools? Let me help you. Here's a page for you that we have on our website, and I'm going to put it into the chat for all of you guys right now, just so that you do have it. It's our college recruitment page, right? So when you come in here, it's going to open up a couple buttons for you. This button right here is going to give you every single men's college volleyball program. It's going to take you to a Wikipedia page that pulls every single program for you. And you can click on it. It's going to take you to their website, and you're going to be able to pull coaches' information, coaches' emails, and just look at the facilities if you want to, right? You can dive super deep into it, but you're just able to go through that list and see what college programs are out there, right? And a lot of the programs, you're going to have no idea what these programs are or what their names are, right? So you take a look at the list, off the bat, you're going to see some names that right? Cal State Northridge. Okay. University of Hawaii. Okay. Yeah, I know that name. Cal State Long Beach, UC Irvine, right? You're going down the list and you see all these schools, and then you're going to get to, you're going to get to the Conference Carolinas, where you're like, I have no idea what Erskine College is. Fun fact, Beta Bay has sent a player to Erskine College. North Greenville, right? What is this school? New Jersey Institute of Technology, right? All these places that you've probably never heard of that you may actually be interested in, right? You may look at a Penn State and be like, I didn't realize Penn State had men's volleyball. I know that school. That's a big football school. This is just a place where you can kind of start to see the wheels turning a little bit more. And from this list of schools, you can start putting together some targets, right? Some places you're like, okay, I could see myself here. That's interesting to me. I'd like to learn more about that. And that's where you can then move to the next phase. And that's going to be emailing, right? The college recruitment process for 95% of athletes is not college coaches recruiting you. It's you recruiting yourself to a college. Right? The best kids in the class, the top kids in the class, have very simple recruiting processes in the big picture of things. They sit back, and on June 15th of their sophomore year, they get contacted, and coaches are going to reach out to them. They're going to talk to them. They're going to try and pitch their school, and they're going to try and set up visits for them. They're going to try and do everything for those top players. For you guys, or I shouldn't say for you guys, for the majority of us, I'm speaking for myself now. For me, that's what I thought it would be when it was my time in high school. I thought that someone was going to reach out to me right away, and I would be able to go through the process and have my pick of wherever I wanted to go. Not the case at all. And I was stubborn, and I didn't know what this looked like. I didn't know what the recruitment process was. My dad, generally speaking, was aware of it, but didn't really know, like, I don't want to push him. I don't know what to do here. Right. There's just a lot of unclear things when you don't really know this process. And so that's where we kind of step in as well, trying to educate and help guys understand that this is such a potential for so many guys, specifically if you're willing to work for it, and specifically if you're willing to have a broad horizon and broad perspective of some different places. So once you kind of get together a list of schools, contacting them becomes the next phase. For our older guys, we've already communicated. The idea is you want to be communicating with coaches before these big tournaments. So taking Chicago this upcoming weekend, like, this is a great time for us to hold this meeting, because we have Chicago coming up. We've got two trips down to Southern California coming up this December and January for our older teams. Those are big recruiting tournaments, because you have college coaches coming into town to watch players play, right? They're coming to these tournaments. It's easy for them to be able to bounce around and see all these different players. And the only way for them to really get a good feel for who an athlete is to see them in person, and then build that relationship. But for them, you got to think about it in the perspective of, how do these coaches even know who to go watch? And for the most part, they're going to go watch the guys that have reached out to them, right? There's a link on here on this page. It's called Register with University Athlete. The app that most college coaches use when they're at tournaments is called University Athlete. And it's basically a program that allows them to evaluate players, but also it's kind of like a CRM. Your parents can fill you in on that. Is if anyone reaches out to them, any recruits, any potential athletes reach out and send them an email, they can automatically tag that email into University Athlete and say, this kid reached out. And that player will get added to a list of people to go see. And then University Athlete takes all of the people who have reached out, or all the people that they've tagged that they need to go see, and it creates a schedule for that coach to say, hey, at 8 a.m., you're watching this match, right? So they're going to go, we got a picture of Teo Snooey right here from our Beta Bay 18s team last year. So on the list for a coach, hey, Teo Snooey, I'm watching him at 8 a.m. You get to go watch, and then they can pull up your profile, and they get to just add notes. They can rank you. There's basically a different rating system they use for all of your skills and all those different things. And it'll aggregate any contact information. If you have reached out to them, it'll let them know there, right? So if they're walking by and they just see you make a play and they're like, oh, who's number 96 on Beta Bay? They can search it and pull you up right away, right? Same idea. So you just want to have this set up. At any point you can go in, like, this is a good easy checklist thing to do. is just create your university athlete profile. What that'll do is it's going to override any information that you did for USA Volleyball or your AAU membership, right? So if your height is like off on USA Volleyball or on your old membership or whatever it is, when you create your university athlete profile, it's going to automatically override it. And so whatever information you want to be in there, that's what goes in. Otherwise, it's just pulling all the information from AES, Time to Sign, or whatever scheduling app the tournament is using. It's pulling from there. So this just overrides that and makes sure all of your information is correct. So that's a really easy one to just checklist, but then bringing it back, right? A really easy way to get seen by more coaches is to reach out to more coaches, right? So you come back to that email template. You can just download the PDF. It's going to be a very general overview of kind of what we want you to say, what we want you to include in your email, from your essay. If you have test scores, including that, your GPA, including that, which team you're on, what tournaments you're going to be attending, all that good stuff is just going to be included in there. And once you send that email, most coaches, most teams, most programs are going to be able to very easily just tag you in. And so that adds you into their scheduler for them to go watch, right? So it's an easy way for you to get some more eyeballs on you. Other things to include in that email is going to be a highlight video. So that's an easy one for us to just quickly talk about. We can show you just an example video here of what we're looking for. Oh, brutal on the YouTube ads. We'll let the Eggo waffle ad play just so you can see it. You're going to be looking for an end line view. Oh, tough, 2S. You're looking for an end line view, and you're trying to keep it as stable as possible. Right. So we took Ryan's from last year. Right. So you got his stats, number, his height, team name, and then he's going to break it up by skill. Right. So you can see here, we got an easy baller TV view. This is dead center end line. This is what coaches want to see. This is how we, as college coaches, every film that we watch that's broken down at the college level is going to be from this viewpoint, because we're able to see the set. We're able to see how you block. Are you drifting? Middle blockers, did you close? Do you step close well to the ball? How's your serve receive? This angle just allows that so much better. So whenever possible, mom, dad, you're looking to try and set up your camera dead center behind your team. Also notice this is nice and stable, right? So we have it tripoded right here. And so easy things to get. Just get in a tripod. Everyone's got a more than high definition camera now on their phones, and just being able to upload that to YouTube at the most basic level is going to take you a long way. If you want to get fancy with it, kind of like what Ryan did here, where you're breaking it up by skill, that's great as well. So you're just able to let a coach kind of pique their interest, right? So you just seen, okay, three great swings from Ryan right off the bat, right? So as a college coach, you see that, and then, you're adding them to the list. You're adding notes in as they go. From there, if they like what they see, many coaches will then want to watch a full match just to kind of see, like, all right, I've seen the highlights. I've seen your best plays over maybe the course of a season. Let's see what you look like in a game. How do you move? How do you interact with your teammates? What do you look like after you make a mistake? How do you talk to a ref? What does it look like when you get subbed out? All these different things that coaches can kind of be looking for as it goes further and further on the road. To make it real simple, though, when you're thinking about sending an email, if you can put together some clips of your highlights, that's great. If a coach asks for a full match, that's great. If you have one that you're like, I balled out in this game, like this is my game, you include that match as well, and you just let them know of that footage also. I'm just going to keep it very, very easy for the coach to be able to see very quickly what you're all about, who you are, and if they want to come watch you in person in live. All right. So that's the general overview of kind of starting points, thinking about contacting and how to get your name on the list and to be seen sooner rather than later. Okay. The next piece, just to go into a little bit more on the communication, important to note, college coaches, specifically Division I level, they can't respond back to any of your contacts until you are past June 15th, heading into your junior year. Okay. So coaches can reach out to you on June 15th of your sophomore year summer, right? So if you're on 16 ones and you're a sophomore, coaches can't reach out to you, but they can on June 15th. That's the first date that they can, right? So if you're younger than 16, don't be surprised if you don't get a response, because they literally are not allowed to respond to you, other than like saying, hey, thank you. And then they can send you like a link to their questionnaire, and that is it. So basically what you're looking for is you're still trying to build rapport and you're trying to build a relationship, kind of what we alluded to at the beginning of recruiting. Is just, it's a relationship with you and a college coach. So when it comes down to it, you're looking for opportunities to make contact, not be annoying, right? You're not trying to email them twice a week for 52 weeks in a row, but easy cadences that we kind of talk about and we can break down a little bit here as well, just depending on where you're at, right? Younger guys, if you're a sophomore or younger, sending out an email before big travel tournaments like Chicago or SoCal, the MLK weekend, that's great. Sending an email with knowing that they won't respond, but knowing that they can read it and they can come watch you, right? Nothing prevents them from watching a 15 and under player play, right? Coaches will go and watch and just be seen and be around during these tournaments and just trying to get a glimpse of who's coming up the pipeline. And so starting that process early is great. If you're later on, if you're a senior, if you're a junior, totally fine, right? So many of college recruits are going to be committing in their senior year. There's plenty of time. For me, I made a switch from, I was going to UC Santa Cruz up until like April 30th of my senior year. And then University of the Pacific came back into the picture for me like late, after I had reached out to them, a couple months prior and said, hey, come take a visit. We actually have an opening now for an outside hitter and love to see if it would be a good fit. And within 2 days, I was up in Stockton looking at the school, loved it. They said yes. And I was no longer going to UC Santa Cruz and lost my $100 deposit to the UCs and was going to UOP instead. Right. So things happen at all different timelines and all different places. So if you're later on in your process in terms of school, don't be intimidated by it. The main thing is coming back to that idea that you're going to be the guy that recruits yourself. Right. And so being able to reach out, being able to understand where you're at on your Venn diagram of what schools kind of meet those criteria, and communicating with them and trying to put yourself out there and make sure that they know that you are interested in their school, right? That's a hugely important thing that goes a long way. Thank you, Alex Jones. I'm glad you didn't get a phone call on June 15th. Just looking here at some of the messages. We got one question that came in about video, about how long it should be. For highlight videos, you're probably looking between 2 to 5 minutes for highlight videos, right? We don't need to watch you dime 10 serves over the course of 3 tournaments, right? But just kind of showing some consistency, showing some good plays that just piques the interest and hopefully leads the coach to a full match video or to come watch you play is the goal. So keeping it within that range. Most coaches will probably get about, if they like what they see in the first 15 seconds, like your first 2 plays look good, they'll probably get to about a minute and a half through before they have kind of made a decision if they want to see more or figure out more about you. So that's a good question. Let's see here as we move to the next pieces. All right. The big piece that we harp on in our four-week course about this is the idea of follow-up, right? Like anyone can send one email out to a college coach before Chicago and say, hey, coach, I'm going to be in Chicago playing on court 7 at 8 a.m. Hope you can come watch me play. Anyone can send that email once, right? Anyone can get that feeling of motivation for a weekend. It's being able to do it consistently over the course of the next, over the course of your sophomore through senior year. That's going to be the most important thing. That's going to return you the most dividends. And the goal is this, right? So we talk about the idea of follow-up. Whenever we send an email, we always end our paragraph or end the email with what we call our next step. So as an athlete, just to give you an example, if I was sending an email, I take that template and I give them the full rundown on who I am, what my test scores are, what my grades are, what team I'm on. Um, I'm always going to follow up saying, hey, I will follow up with an email of my most recent highlight video after Chicago, right? So it's letting the coach know when you're going to be contacting next so that they can just start to learn to expect something from you and learn to expect that you're going to be reaching out rather than just being like, oh, he reached out this before Chicago here. And then, he reached back out in June, 6 months later for the next tournament, right? Just giving those next steps so coaches can be aware, right? There's so many cadence touch points that we can go over. And the further on in your high school career you are, the more frequent those touch points will be, right? Because you're getting down to the nitty gritty. It's time to start making some decisions on colleges. You're always looking for what those touch points can be, and most of the time they're going to revolve around tournaments, right? Because you can lead up to a tournament, let them know, hey, I'm going to be in Chicago. This is where my team plays. This is how we did this past weekend. And then you can do a follow-up from that, right? A week later, or however long it takes you to make a video clipping together your highlights and just letting them know how you did, right? And then you go into your high school season. If you're a senior and you're letting them know, we just played in this high school tournament. Here's my most recent clips, right? And so now you've got like every 2-week cadence as a senior. And then if you're a junior, maybe it's once a month. And if you're a sophomore, maybe it's once every month or two that you're sending some kind of a message. But you're talking about making 12 emails over the 12 emails over the course of a year, right? Once a month. It's something that is very manageable for people, and it is something that you're able to do if you really, really want to, right? And the goal for us, like doing this webinar and doing the course, is to show you guys that it's just something where you just need to have the knowledge, and you need to have someone who's in your corner, right? And so knowing this, like knowing just right off the bat of you're in a place, you're playing in a club that's highly competitive, that's visible across the country, that's going to be seen by college coaches. You're in a place where you can have a launching pad, and having people in your corner to help you with that is huge. All right. So just to talk about that aspect before we kind of get into some open up questions here, the big thing that you can take. So if you're a parent on this call, or if you're a player on this call, just knowing that there's got to be a group, right? The college recruitment process is not like a lone wolf going off into the wilderness trying to figure it out on his own. You want as many people in your corner as humanly possible, because college recruiting is, yes, number one, about relationships, right? You and a college coach, but it's also about the relationship of your club directors and your club coaches, right? And your high school coaches and your athletic directors, or whoever else has some form of connection that can help you, right? And so that's something that we're always preaching. If you're interested in college recruiting and you're trying to make the next step, communicating that with your club coach is huge, right? So that they know that that's part of your goal, right? Because the majority of our coaches all have relationships with a number of college programs already, right? And then they have conversations with us as club directors. So, talking with Coach Ariel, like the people who are having conversations with those college coaches when they're asking, who's in your club that's a setter in this class? Who's in your club that's in this position? What's going on in NorCal? Any players that I should keep my eye on? Those are the conversations that we have at tournaments. That is one of the biggest things that we do when we are traveling and going to the large convention center events, is to be building relationships with college programs, because it serves our athletes down the road, right? So utilize the resources that you have and utilize the people who are in your corner and want you to succeed, right? If you share those aspirations, that is great, right? Those are great things for you to be communicating, because people want to help people who are letting you know about their goals, right? So if you're thinking about college recruiting and you're like, I'm just not sure, or like have a little bit of imposter syndrome, which so many guys go through, of like, I don't know where I'm at or if I'm good enough, have a sit down, honest conversation with your coach and say, listen, coach, I really want to play in college. What do you think about that? Like, how do you think where do you think I would stack up, or how could I get to this place? Those are great conversations to be having. that will be super helpful for you and will then inspire that coach, inspire that club director, whether it's high school, club, whatever it may be, to also be thinking about you and how they can help further that mission for yourself. So that's the general overview there of kind of the main points that we always want to hammer home of how to formulate a list of schools, how to organize it, and then how to then start your contact period of reaching out to people as well, right? So we've got some of those helpful resources out there. I know I need to put in the chat that link for you as well. So I'll do that now, and then I'm going to open it up for some questions and see if there's anything that anyone has specific needs or wants to go over right now. All right, the link that I showed you guys is going to be up there right now or in the chat. All right, so we got a question. After emailing and keeping in touch with a coach, what are they going to be looking for when they watch you play at a tournament? So I alluded to it a little bit earlier, right? So number one, when a coach comes to watch a player play, they're going to be looking at your skills, right? How do you compete? What does your platform look like when you're passing? What kind of serve do you have? What's your attacking mechanics look like? What's your size? Are you actually 6'2", or are you an email 6'2", where you're actually 5'11", right? Those types of things coaches are going to be looking for. There's a number of other things. I know a lot of different strategies from college coaches. I have one very close friend that's a Division I college coach where he will never sit on the court of the player he's watching. He's always watching from 2 courts down, right? He doesn't want to be seen. He doesn't want the player to see him. He just wants to see how he actually plays, not how he plays when a college coach comes and sits down on their court. So there's lots of things. So you want to be aware of what's your body language look like? How do you act as a teammate when you're on the bench, right? If a coach comes and watching and it's the 1 versus 4, and you're on the bench and on the sideline, are you cheering? Are you engaged? Are you checked out? What do you look like when you're reffing? Some coaches will literally do that. A lot of times though, very simply, they're coming to watch you play. They want to see what you look like. They want to see how you play the game. Does this recruiting process apply to both collegiate club volleyball or just the, I'm assuming, like collegiate NCAA, NAIA level? This is going to be almost exclusively for the NCAA, NAIA level, intercollegiate athletics wise. College club is mainly the guys who got into the school that want to keep playing volleyball. And so it's a lot like high school in that sense, where you have tryouts. Like some schools will have A teams and B teams, or even C teams if there's enough interest from players. And then there's going to be different tiers, right? So kind of how we have open and premier and national levels tournaments, they have the same thing for college club, and you kind of select yourself into those different levels. But yeah, it's one of the ones where we do in our 4-week course, we bring on alumni from all levels. So we bring in a guy who's played D1, someone who played D2 or D3, an NAIA guy, and then a college club guy, and we kind of talk through the different processes and then what it's just like, right? What's it like being an athlete in that level during college, right? How was your time management? How was your social life while still being a Division I athlete? How was your academic level for D3s? Did you feel like you had enough time? Different stuff like that. And there's some really interesting things that come out, like our guys who play D3. One of our former players, also a guy who coached for us, Will Perry, who coached for us this last summer for 14 Premier, plays D3 in Boston for Endicott College. And he actually had a great point that I hadn't even really put together from the outside world or outside perspective. But Division III, the really good thing about Division III in terms of your social and academic life is almost all of your matches are local. There's not a ton of travel, at least on the East Coast. This is true, because all of those teams are all like right next to each other. So they're all just playing super local events. It's like they hop in the school vans, drive to the game, come back. Whereas for Division I, you're flying You could be flying to Hawaii one weekend, and then you're flying to BYU the next, and then you're down in Los Angeles, and then you're going over to George Mason in Virginia, or you're kind of bouncing around and doing a lot of travel for that level of play. And so there's different things that come from that. And I think it's one of the ones where you just have to have some introspection of like, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to try and play at the highest level that you can? Do you believe that you can do that? And I think that's a hugely powerful thing. And I never, ever want to discourage or diminish anyone's goals. I think if you set your mind of like, I'm going to go do this and I want to do this, there's a school out there that will take you. No matter what. I always actually quote Alex Jones, who's on this call right now, but he had a great quote in a recruiting meeting with one of our players probably 3 years ago. And he said, literally, the only thing that matters is it just takes one coach to want you. That's all. Right? It takes one coach to just say yes, and you're into a program. Right. And so building relationships with coaches and casting a net based upon what it is that you want to try and accomplish is a really, really important thing that's going to help set you down that path of finding that one coach, finding that one program. Because for a lot of guys like myself, like Coach Jones, it was the only option, right? Or one of the only options that you get to choose from that you end up playing at. So question, do coaches go watch open games, or do they also come watch USA division teams? College coaches watch every division. The good ones do, right? The ones that are winning a lot and recruiting from all over, they're watching every level. Specifically for boys, this is a big comparison for our, when we go to like the AVCA convention and it's men's volleyball and women's volleyball. There's a big comparison of recruiting at the female level versus recruiting at the male level. Boys just mature later, right? And so you're looking for a lot of different guys, right? Players who we've got some stats on, like guys who play on our 13 ones team. The makeup of that team when you get to 18s is almost always entirely different, because guys grow and develop at different paces, right? And so you're going to have someone who was 5'0" when they were 15 hit a massive growth spurt over the next 2 years, and now he's 6'6" or whatever comes up, right? Boys bodies just are a whole different ball game. So coaches are watching consistently across the board, looking for guys who show athleticism, guys who show show some promise of like where they could be going. And then of course they're looking for the massive tree that's like can't really move yet, but down the road, that guy, you can't really teach 6'9" to a 15-year-old, right? Like they're looking for those players as well, of course, but just being able to be around and have a good visual of players is a hugely important thing at the college level. And so they're going around watching everyone. Let's see here. Yes. Okay. Had a question come up about university athletes. So yeah, it'll ask for a link to your club with your name on it. And usually what we recommend for that one is going to be from your AES roster. So like if you go to the Chicago tournament for AES, click on your team and then pull up your roster, screenshotting that is usually, or not screenshotting that, including that link, I believe has been working. It's what we did last year, at least. So using your AES roster is what we recommend. All right. I'm going to hop in and show you guys a couple more things here real quick. I'm not going to go past 9. So I just want to show you guys a little bit of the inside of kind of what we do for our 4-week course, just to kind of give you a little bit more in-depth scoop on it. All right. So this is just where I'm showing you the inside of our course portal. So this is what we're going to start next week on Tuesday. And then every week after that, it'll be on Wednesday nights. But it's our weekly college course. And so it's just overviewing college recruiting. And what we do is, number one, we just set up a group meet and just a place for everyone who's in the course to be able to work together, right? Ask questions, get feedback, send their emails to get edited, all that good stuff. And then we've got a number of just kind of pre-recorded things that we overview kind of more in depth. right? So we talk about our council, and that's kind of the idea of what we were talking about earlier of, the people that you want to have in your camp, right? Your mom and dad, you want to have mom and dad in your camp. You want to have your club coach, your high school coach, your club directors, people that you want to be communicating with about your recruitment process so that everyone's on the same page and is able to help you in whatever way they can. We overview our timelines, right? So that's kind of, depending on if you're a senior in high school versus a freshman in high school, you're going to have different timelines. And you're going to have different cadences for how you communicate, how often you communicate, and kind of what that looks like, and some different subtleties of like how we make that work. Next one is just creating that school list. This is a good one just to hop into real quick. So I'll show you here. On this one, we break our schools into 3 categories. It's called reach, target, and safety. So reach schools, Stanford, Harvard, Princeton, all those top schools that, like, no matter what, even if you have a 4.9 GPA with the best SAT scores, it's still going to be reach school because you have no idea if you're going to get in, right? Those are those schools. So you're basically thinking about it in terms of, if you are taking your general student body population, where your GPA and test scores are at, where would you fit in? So if I've got a 3.9, Stanford is certainly going to be a reach school for me. But if I have a 3.9, my target school, maybe I'm thinking like, let's see here, UC Santa Barbara could be within reach, right? Even they're probably a little bit higher on their GPA now. And then you have your safety schools, maybe a Cal State Northridge. Sorry, Coach Jones, will be my safety school. For just based on my GPA, I know that I'm more than likely going to get into that school with the grades and the test scores that I have. Right. And so you can kind of create a list based on those for your academic level. And then you also have the volleyball side, right? So I may have Hawaii as a safety school for my academic side, but it's probably a reach school for me in terms of my volleyball skills, right? So you can kind of think about your schools in those two ways, right? So that's kind of the breakdown there, and how we go about researching those. All those good things. And each of these kind of modules comes with a full video where we run in depth on it. We go deep on the contact, right? How we build relationships with coaches, what those different email templates can be, how to have text message conversations, how to have phone calls. We set up actually some mock phone calls where I get to be your pretend college coach, and we have some phone calls on our weekly Zoom. Just to kind of run guys through that experience, so that you can kind of practice it, because it's a nerve-wracking thing to talk to an adult who's in control of offering you a spot to their school or not. These are all of our previously recorded weekly sessions. Some cool stuff in there. Love these panels. We do a panel on each of these courses of current athletes that have gone through, right? Like, so take, for example, I'll be asking Jack Eberton, Nate Clinton, Ben Cohen, guys who have all committed to go play next year. We'll have them come in and kind of just overview their recruitment process, ask them some questions so you can kind of get the most up to date. Like, here's what my experience was like, because everyone has a different experience in their recruitment process, specifically thinking about like where you want to go and how you and the places that you want to be. And then we have a panel of our alumni, right? So what we said before, we try and bring in kind of all walks of the full gamut of college volleyball from D1 to collegiate club, so that you're able to ask questions, right? If you're really interested in D3, or even more specific, like if you're really interested in MIT as a Division III school, and you let us know, first thing we do is we're going to set you up with a text thread. And this is just across the board. This isn't like for the people in the 4-week course only, just in general. Like if you are interested in school and you're communicating again with your council, your club directors, your coaches, and you say, I'm interested in MIT, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, great, let's get you connected with Brett Allen and Robin Liu, our 2 Beta Bay alums that are currently there now, so that you can talk with them and ask them a question about the program. How was the coach? What was your recruitment process like? Anything that I should be looking out for? Right. Those are all great things. And there's so many alumni that we have now spattered across the country that we've got people who are connected to each school. And so being able to reach out to them, connect them, is a hugely beneficial thing that's super important. We set up I believe we have an athlete this upcoming week going to Loyola Chicago. And so he's going to go on campus and he's going to visit with Colton Brooks. So one of our former players and one of our coaches who coaches in the summer, he's going to walk him around campus because Colton plays on the Division I team at Loyola right now. And so he's going to take him through a tour and show him what it looks like and do all that good stuff. And so there's just some good stuff there that kind of comes from utilizing the alumni base that we have and getting some more inside scoops for you guys as players and parents, right? There's a lot of things that go on to that. One thing that we're going to play around with this year is we're actually going to bring some alumni parents on because moms and dads that are on this phone call, I know you guys probably have tons of questions as well about what that experience is like. And we've had some great parents who've gone through it and did a really, really good job just supporting their sons, right? And doing it in the right way. Whenever we talk to parents about college recruiting, the first thing we always say is like, or if someone asks, can we set up a time to meet to overview recruiting? Our answer is always yes, but your son needs to be the one to set up the meeting, right? Because when it comes down to it, it's their college experience. It's what they want to do. And so we're always going to push for those guys to take charge of it. And we want, don't get me wrong, moms and dads on here, we want you guys to be well-informed. We want you to be aware, and we want to help you guys through this process as well. But most important, number one is going to be making sure that the boys are in charge and that they know and are empowered to go out and do this thing. Because it is something that feels scary, but once you get a grasp of and once you get the hang of, it's not. It's just the game of relationships all over again in college format, which is a ton of fun. College volleyball format. So that's my that's the end of my rant on that one. I'll see if there's any more questions that I've missed here. Looks like we are good to go on that. But yeah, that is the rundown. That's our general overview. I hope it at minimum inspired a little bit of interest in this process. And if you are, feeling inspired to like, hey, I'm gonna get together an email right now. Great. Take a look at that link that I sent out in the chat. I'll put it in there again of that recruiting link. You can download the PDF. You can go to that Wikipedia page with all of the coaches, all of the programs, and you can go on their team websites and just pull the coaches' emails, and you can send out an email before Chicago and let them know, and you'll get added onto their university athlete thing, and they'll probably come stop by for a little bit and watch you play and put down some notes. But I appreciate you guys joining me for an hour here on a Wednesday night. If you are interested in the 4-week course where we go dig even deeper and kind of go through the stuff and provide a little bit more white glove service, if you will, to the recruitment process, we'll be sending out an email after this with more information on it. That link is going to be coming through in that email. But beyond that, thank you guys. We'll post the recording of this tomorrow on YouTube. You can share it with anyone that may have missed. But adios. That's all I got.